Hey guys, your girl Alicia, aka Geek XX Chic, and we have another review to The Walking Dead. This is for episode 3, which was called Hunted, and whoo, lordy, this was intense. Like, I think it's been a long time. I feel like the last time we had episodes that were as intense as this one, especially right out of the gate, was probably way back in like season 4, 5, back when our group was on the road and trying to just survive. And we're kind of back into that mode again. I think we had a bit of a break while Alexandria and Hilltop and Sanctuary and Kingdom and all these places existed with walls and some semblance of life and civility. And now we're thrown right back into where we were back in those times shortly after the prison fell, and our group was just kind of literally going from week to week, barely surviving, constantly in fight or flight mode. And it's kind of crazy how much you realize you change and how much you forget how crazy it is when you have to go back into that pure survival mode. It kind of brings me back to, like, do you remember, I think it was season 6, I want to say, season 6 when we went to Alexandria, I think. And we saw like how Rick especially, but Rick, Michonne, a lot of the group really struggled in Alexandria for that first little while, and Rick the longest, because it was just like trying to just get out of that, decompress out of that mode of always surviving, but also because they were scared that if they allowed themselves to remember what it was like to just go to sleep at night and rest and wake up in the morning and worry about mundane things like making breakfast, that they would forget that they were in this crazy, harsh, terrible world. And they lose their edge, right? We even saw that even after Michonne was saying that, we got to settle in and give this a try, she's still going out hunting walkers for fun, right? Because she just kind of felt like, no, I got to keep this edge. I got to remind myself that this world is not what it used to be. Now, looking at how things are now, I think this is, again, what Michonne and Rick were afraid of all those seasons ago, of what happens when we lose everything. We really have to start from scratch again. And I think it's hitting some people a little bit harder. Pardon me. We're seeing back in Alexandria, just Carol being like, I know we need to do these things, but I also feel like we're just doing this completely futile, fruitless effort of trying to rebuild something that was so well established and had so much hope, and now it's just all gone. And so even though she was supposed to be trying to help put the walls back and forage for food and do all these things, her mind was just kind of stuck in this, oh my gosh, like, we have to get horses, we got to do something, like, I just don't know what's going to be enough. And we have, of course, like I said, Carol being on this mission, needing to have something work out, like capturing the horses, even though we have Aaron telling her, Aaron's like, we don't need to worry about the horses, we need to work on things here. Carol's like, no, I need something that's going to give me some immediate gratification. Carol just needed something, and that's so Carol's nature. Like, she doesn't like to just sit idly, she doesn't like to just wait. She just wants that immediate kind of reward, which isn't wrong, because in the end, of course, like I said, she was feeling pretty proud of herself when she brought the horses back, and it turned out to be something that worked out. There is the side story, of course, with Kelly and, why can't I think of her name? Magda? Mart, I can't think of her name, but you know what I mean. It looks like those two have gotten a lot closer. The vibe just seems different. They seem much closer to each other than what I remember, but again, they are the only two left out of their little group now, so maybe they are just a little tighter because of that. But she didn't like the idea of Kelly continuing to go out on these searches to see if Connie's still alive, which we know she is, and I'm really hoping we'll get to see her soon because I miss her. But I understand that she's, I think it's coming from a good place of her thinking that obviously the constant disappointment for Kelly of not finding her sister is heartbreaking and it hurts. But as I said in the episode, it's not her call to make. Kelly needs to decide for Kelly when she's ready to give up, and I don't think she is ready. And it's a good thing because we know Connie is still alive. But of course, whether or not she'll make her way back to Alexandria with Mr. I like to drug people and then lock them up in whatever scientific holding buildings. I don't know where he's taken her. I don't know if he's being good to her. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, she's still alive. So I'm not mad at Kelly for still holding out hope. Yeah, that's pretty much all we really got. There wasn't much on the Alexandria situation outside of the fact that it's still dire, as we already know. But they're also showing that they get it done, right? Carol did get something done that needed to be done. They are trying to rebuild as best they can. They're trying to keep hope alive in what's a very dire situation. I loved actually seeing the scene with the children. That's something we haven't really seen in The Walking Dead before. Like, we've seen teenagers kind of hang. And that was more with, obviously with Carl and a little bit with Enid. And we haven't really seen the kids of The Walking Dead just sit there and have a convo. And I really enjoyed that because that's the thing, right? Everyone sitting at that table are post-apocalypse babies. They have no concept, none at all, of what the world was. This is their world. This is their reality. Walkers, the dead, scavenging. Although I thought it was so interesting that we saw this dichotomy between the kids who were born in Alexandria or Sanctuary and Herschel, who's been with his mom, who's been on this escapade since he was born, and the difference between their perspectives already, right? Because you think about it and it's like, this is nothing normal about this world. It's very, very twisted and horrible. But even so, the world that RJ and Judith and I can't remember, I think that girl's Aaron's daughter, like that they've grown up in has been fairly safe, really. Pretty much Judith would have only remembered Alexandria. Same with RJ. He was born in Alexandria. So they actually grew up with a sense of security. They've never been on the road. They've had a home. They pretty much always had food, water, everything they needed. They have no concept of what it is to rough it, right? The worst that Judith maybe ever had to go through is maybe eating the same vegetable for a couple of days in a row, right? So you have that, and then you've got Herschel, who's like your hardened and well-worn road warrior. RJ talking about he ain't hungry. You ain't hungry enough is what it was. You will be hungry enough. You're going to be licking that plate, okay? And I just thought it was very interesting that they showed that perspective from their eyes and how, the parents were kind of freaking out about, oh my gosh, like I wonder what the kids are thinking. I wonder how they're going to be. And the kids have just accepted. It's more the people who know what the world used to be that are still very much in this mode of how do we deal with this? What do we do? What's life going to be like? And like kids, I mean, we say kids are resilient and they are, but not because they're kids, but just because kids don't have any frame of reference, right? They will accept things as they are. And honestly, as adults, if we did that, we would be so much happier in life if we accepted things as they were versus what our expectations are. And that's where we get tripped up. And that's where the adults are struggling right now. They're so focused on what they expect, which is walls and food and water and safety and a world that's like the one that was. And these kids don't know any different than the world that they're in. So they accept it and they still find joy in it, playing card games or whatever fun little kid games that kids always come up with. I just think that was a really cool moment and I like that they gave it to us, and it was a really nice juxtaposition to how the adults were processing the situation as it was. The other half of the episode was about Maggie and Negan and the group who was out trying to get the food. Like I said, we jumped right into it, right at the jump of the episode. We lost several people right off the bat, and I was like, well, damn. Walking Dead ain't giving you time to process nothing. This group is organized. They know how to set traps. They hunt, just like the episode said. They set traps for these guys. They wait till it's dark so they can move better. Everything was about a combination of being efficient, but also playing the game of terror before they catch their prey. I really liked that, like the way they shot it, by the way, was really cool. Like they kind of had that almost hand cam lens, a bit of that fisheye lens to really give that almost horror effect when they were shooting at night. And I think that was really good to add to the intensity of it. That's very different for Walking Dead as well. Like I said, it felt very Blair Witch, very meta, early 2000s horror film, and I'm not against it. It's a nice stylistic choice. Also, kudos to Maggie, how her survival skills have drastically improved in that she was able to react so quickly, like the throwing of the knife at that guy's head and his distraction with that giving her the moment that she needed to run off and get some distance between her and her pursuer. And of course, the whole situation with Alden being wounded, that slow death was so sad. Like, I was like, oh man, y'all had to make Alden have the slow, like, we're so used to Walking Dead kind of having the quick death or something fairly quick when you have a cast member die, but to have Alden literally do a death march, and it was really sad that it came down to him have to basically tell Maggie, like, well, we're not gonna make it. Like, you're just gonna let these guys catch up to you and they're going to kill me anyway, so let me at least go on my own terms. But really, we got Maggie and Negan now alone on the road together, which of course, that shot they gave us at the end with Negan holding the bloody crowbar and that upshot to Maggie, very reminiscent of, again, the difference in dynamic. Remember the last time that Negan and Maggie were kind of in a frame together like that was him holding the blood-soaked bat that he used to kill Glenn and her being on her knees screaming and looking up at him. So I appreciate the callback there and the difference, though. I mean, there's obviously a bit of a power dynamic change now, but it was not missed on me, as well as also potentially putting out this idea of Negan versus Maggie and this concept of life and death, because we got two people who cannot see eye to eye. You know, Negan said it in this episode. People were starting to trust me again. People were starting to see me for me. Then you came back with your people, and now I'm right back to being the untrusted one again. And the fact that that's kind of what it comes down to, right? Negan just looks at Maggie as this obstacle, like I said in the last episode, to him getting his redemption arc and fitting into this society that he now has a stake in. And that's why he was willing to let her die in the last episode, because he thought, hey, if she's out of the way, then it means green lights for me. But as we saw with Maggie, like she said, like, I don't believe you've changed. I don't think you're the person who can change. But all that aside, she very rightfully has no reason whatsoever nor obligation to forgive Negan or give him any grace. What Negan fails to remember over and over and over again is that he killed her husband right in front of her in a brutal, horrible way, and laughed about that and made jokes while he was doing it. Like, that will never, ever, ever, ever leave Maggie's mind. If Negan really wants to show Maggie that he is changing and different, he needs to acknowledge that. And Negan seems to just be thinking that she should be over it, when if somebody had done that to his Lucille, if Maggie had done that to his Lucille when she was still alive, yeah, I don't think he'd be over it. But in this world that we're in now, people are a resource that's invaluable, and you really don't want to quickly dismiss people because they did crap things in the past. Like, if they can change and grow and be different and be beneficial, that is super important in this world. And Maggie needs to decide if that's something that she's willing to live with Negan there. And again, if she doesn't, then she might have to think about the idea of maybe not being in Alexandria going forward, because Negan's kind of made his stake now. And the reality is a good chunk of people in Alexandria are okay with him being there, especially after the Alpha situation. So it's an interesting dynamic. As I said, it's going to continue, I think, throughout the season. But now that these two are now on their own little road trip together, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they come to some kind of middle ground, or if they just both continue to try to take opportunities to take each other out. Yeah, this is a very interesting episode, very dark in many ways, and we'll have to see how it all goes. Maybe Alden isn't going to die. I don't think that's the case, though, and I honestly am not that emotionally attached either way. But I am very interested to see if they actually end up getting to Meridian after all of this. And also, we got nothing on the Commonwealth this episode, so I'm very interested to see what the Commonwealth is all about, and whether or not we're going to see some of our people get seduced away from Alexandria. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. If you did, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, and we will see you in the next video.